Hey, it's your imagination.
Oh, Steve.
Good.
Do I have a button to wear for you?
Good to be home for a day, or
We might. What's that?
good to be home for a day or two, and now you're going again?
Okay, Madam Chair, we are ready.
Same thinner as me, and that's really
To meet with legislators.
You should have
a
stayed, because
personal
you're
issue.
going down today again,
I know.
aren't you?
I'm
You
like,
could
I
have
gotta
just
go
as
home
well.
Hey, how's your leak turn out?
Well, thanks for considering us.
Beth, we're ready to go.
$450.
All right, I'm gonna call the
Yeah. there's like a
Tuesday,
scale
March
of
3rd board meeting to order. We'll rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I gotta do this, but there you go, Andrew.
I saw two, Steve.
Our our
Not
veteran,
like that for like a month every time. I go
our
over there.
county veteran.
That's right.
Okay,
Turn the eagle around.
first of all, we have public comment period. Would anybody like to speak? Looks like no, so the March 3rd meeting agenda.
No changes today, Madam Chair.
Okay, I get a motion.
Chair Oberg, I move the board agenda as printed and distributed.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson. Do I
A
hear-
second.
Second by Commissioner Van Ort. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Andrew, would you like to go over the consent agenda?
Yes, we have approval of the February 17th board meeting minutes. Approval of the Health and Human Services County and Hospital accounts payable. Approval of the 2026 aquatic invasive species contracts. Approval of the distribution of the 2025 aggregate tax. And approval of a club on-sale liquor license renewal for Cedar Mills Gun Club.
All right, any questions, additions? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion by Commissioner Schmidt. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Samke. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Mark, tell me your last name, Mark. I butcher them usually. Strophus, Great River Energy Project Manager.
Yes.
We already did. Didn't we? Yeah, we did.
There we go. Hi,
Hello.
Chair Oberg, Commissioners, my name is Mark
maybe
Strophus.
not.
I'm a project manager in our transmission permitting department at Great River Energy. I also have Rob Toomey, he's the overall project manager. Dale Alke, he's a senior land agent for the project. We're here to talk about a 115 kilovolt transmission line project that we're building through the county. Dale will be the one out talking to landowners. We've had some communications with landowners already. We've had an open house across in the old Opera Hall. Talked to landowners, had pretty good attendance at that. And we're just here to give you guys an idea about the project and answer any questions you may have. So first of all, why are we building this project? The existing 69 kV line, kilovolt transmission line system throughout this area was built in the late 1940s, early 1950s. It's pretty much at the end of its useful life. With the growth we're seeing around here, the increase in electrification, we are planning to build this as a higher voltage from 69 to 115 kilovolts.
Can I ask, you want
Yes,
me
I
to
was gonna
jump?
say, you guys can stop at any point in time and ask questions. I think we have time on the agenda if necessary.
Is this, I'm gonna assume, but I shouldn't. Is this 115 KV, is there room on there to expand that? Like, are you designing it with allowable room to go to more KVs in the future, or is this?
No,
Okay,
each voltage has its specific design requirements on insulators and
Oh,
structures
gotcha.
and that type of thing. There are instances where we'll build a line as a single circuit and have capabilities for a double circuit, but we don't see that as being necessary. Our planning groups has not suggested that we do this on this project, that we wouldn't see growth like that for another 30 years probably, where we'd need.
okay, well, and that was my question. I mean, there's So you need to plan now for that, to carry that future capacity on this line, that 115.
Yes, the 115 has sufficient
And-
growth capacity to cover the anticipated electricity increases,
Okay.
consumption, and for the next 30 years.
Okay, because and like the XL, some of the large ones, they have,
Yeah.
you know, 2 circuits on one side and 2, they can add 2 to the other.
Yes, yes.
I was just curious,
Okay,
that design piece.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so, okay, it looks pretty good up there. This project is fairly large, 70 miles. It goes all the way from Wilmer south. You can see on the slides here, the purple line, the red line, then the purple line headed north into Litchfield. There's a blue line heading, I don't really have, oh, I do. Look at, here we go. So let me do this again. Purple line, red line, down, down, up. We're gonna talk a little bit more in detail when we get to the county. Oop. Let me go back. So we go up into the city of Litchfield, eventually up into Forest City. And then we're also heading south down to Hutchinson. So just give you a big picture of geographic areas. Again, the project in itself is 70 miles. 50 miles is going to be reconstructing existing 69 and converting it to 115. 20 miles of the overall project is a rebuild. Within Meeker County, we're gonna have 38 miles of rebuild and, 20 miles new, 18 miles of rebuild.
So when I look at this, of course, we have the big one from XL Energy. You're about 1.5 miles to the east of 4 with this transmission line.
Yes,
And that's going to be, the new line
well,
from,
yep,
okay.
my mouse back here. So we're actually coming in right along the county line here. On the north side, it's actually in Candy, Ojai County.
Yep.
Then we're shifting at about here. And that assumes we're gonna build on the same exact center line. Sometimes we have to change which side of the road we're on. But in general, so the red line, we're gonna follow across, all the way, cross over 4. County Road, Highway 4 here.
You look County Road 22 is the east-west.
Yep, yep. And right now, it heads north into Litchfield along this line. Some of this is cross-country. We prefer not to build cross-country.
Sure.
Through farm fields and such. And we have a good opportunity to head along the dotted purple line. Here, heading north, following the county road, Highway 35 there.
And that will be new, correct?
That will be new.
Okay.
The
So-
only odd location here, you'll see a little bump out to the east here, that's around the church there. There's homes and businesses right on the other side of the road, so we're gonna sneak behind the trees to get into there.
So at your junction on 4, about 1.25 miles north of Cosmos, that's where you'll go underneath the XL? At that one intersection point there?
Yep.
Yeah, and we're existing there right now, so, XL will have to build over us on that, but that's a bigger
Okay.
voltage. So they will have to put bigger structures above ours.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, what did they say the height of their poles were?
140-ish.
Yeah, and you guys will be,
We'll be at most probably about 90 feet above grade. 70 to 90 is typically what we're looking at. So we affect a number of townships in the area. We've had some conversations with townships. Nothing particularly significant from any
Is
of them.
on the purple line, they're going north in Greenleaf Township. So that,
Yep.
your plan is then, would you take out the old one or the old one stays?
Yeah, we would remove that. Yep.
If you're able to.
So then we continue north into Litchfield, eventually again up through into Forest City. The blue lines are the new construction. All of the others are existing rebuilds with some different distinctions. The purple line is actually owned by SIMPA, Southern Minnesota Municipal Agency. We are doing the work on their behalf for this project.
So your poles, 90 feet, so you're going to be using a steel or what are they
Yes, on
called?
this-
Monopole?
Yep,
Setup.
have some pictures on those. Let's just go see, skip ahead here a little bit. So this is what they're typically gonna look like. We are planning to use pretty much steel on 100%. It's better resiliency to weather events. We still have, even though we prefer to follow roads, we have a number of these lines cross-country through wetlands. It's pretty tough to get in there in the summertime to repair those damages. So we put steel poles in to increase their durability and resistance to weather events. The first pole you'll see on the left side of the screen there, that is a steel pole. We have the conductors stacked all on one side. We'll probably have some of that situation on this particular project because we're crossing through some DNR lands, some Fish and Wildlife Service lands that we'd like to minimize our right-of-way. So we're able to cut maybe 10 or 15 feet off our right-of-way. Our standard right-of-way on 115 kV line is 100 feet, 50 feet each side of the center line of the transmission. The second one is a delta configuration. These are they're called braced post designs. That's our standard. We can have the poles a little bit shorter, saves a little bit cost if we use that. The next one is a galvanized steel on a concrete foundation. We will have some of that on the project. We can have it stacked on both sides like this, or we can have the delta configuration. Until we get into engineering, it's pretty hard to tell. The last one is a double circuit. I didn't mention that. The line going north into the city of Litchfield, owned by SIMPA, that is a double circuit line, and that will continue to be a double circuit line. Let's get back to the last one. The project itself has to go through the state permitting process. At 70 miles, we're subject to the certificate of need process, and we'll have to get a route permit from the Public Utilities Commission. This is probably a 12-month process to get through the state process itself. We will be having additional outreach as part of this. As I mentioned, we had the open house across the road here. We had one down in Litchfield at the fairgrounds as well. What's that? Hutchinson, thank you. Thank you, Dale. The state process has open houses as well. There are several meetings that have to be held. GRE likes to hold an open house before those. We can have some informal conversations with landowners. Sometimes they have a lot of questions. We can kind of keep the hearing shorter if necessary. Some of these meetings will be done virtually, so if people can't make it to the location and the time, they can log in from home and sit through a virtual meeting. There will be a hearing. So the first one will be a informational and scoping meeting. That will come shortly after we submit our application. Right now, we're thinking about submitting our application in June or July of this year. So this is coming up fairly quickly. Within about 10 days, in about 2 weeks, we'll have this first meeting. It will be managed and operated by the Public Utilities Commission staff, but again, GRE will be there. We'll be doing presentations for this as part of that whole meeting. Later on, maybe 6 months down the road, hopefully earlier, hopefully 4. The state process, the state rules have changed, and they're trying to speed things up, and I have to say they've been fairly successful on that, so we're really happy about that. We'll have another public hearing. This is in front of an administrative law judge. There will be at least one in-person and one virtual. It's up to the state to decide whether they want to do more than one. The Litchfield area here is pretty central to the whole process, to the whole project, so it might be here or they may opt to have one in Hutchinson as well. Finally, the last hearing will be in St. Paul at the Public Utilities Commission offices. Sorry, I missed this. So we had talked already that the pole heights are about 70 to 90 feet tall typically. And we're gonna go 350 to 500-foot spans. The one nice thing about the steel poles is we can go 500. The wood pole, we're kind of limited to about 350, 400. Once we get the route permit issued, Dale will be going out and talking with all of the landowners. We have a very good process for this. We take into consideration landowners' suggestions as to where they want poles. And our designs are fairly flexible. We can typically move poles 10 feet this way or that way and accommodate. Our engineers are very good. We don't have a whole lot of poles in front of homes on this. We will, kind of in the southern area of the project, and our engineers are very good. They do not put poles in the middle of people's front yards. They try to place them on the section lines and parcel lines and out of the people's views. So we've been doing this for a while. Our engineers are very good. We bring them out to meetings, and landowners can talk to them directly. As I mentioned, we're seeking a 100-foot wide easement, 50 feet each side of the center line. Where we follow along a road, we try to put our structures between 2 and 5 feet outside of road right-of-way. That allows us to overlap areas we know that are gonna be maintained. Trees aren't gonna grow on roadways, so we don't have to worry about that portion where we overlap. And then that limits us to a landowner easement of about 55 feet typically on private property. Most of we have existing easements I've done some spot checking. I would say at least 90% of these we have easements from the 1940s and 1950s. They're called blanket easements. They just say, we're gonna build a transmission line on your property. We will modernize this, add some language to it, but most importantly, it will limit us to kind of this 100-foot corridor that we're looking for, or 55 feet if you're alongside the road. So that's a good thing for the landowners because it's got some time involved. We will provide some level of compensation to rework the contract, the easement itself.
So, I think I know this, but if they've sold the property over the years, the easement goes along.
Yep,
with
the
it.
easement,
So
even
there's-
easement goes, when you close on your property,
Okay.
that's part of the
But you're
title-
aware of that when you,
Title work, yep.
Okay.
Yep. Then, once we have the easement signed, we'll come back out, talk to the landowners, send them letters. Here's the process. We keep them informed as to the construction schedule. This is gonna be a fairly lengthy project. Rob, do you know what's the construction duration? 4 years?
So you had it briefly laid out. By the way, if I may speak into
Yeah.
my phone.
Yes, please.
like, that'd be good.
I apologize.
Oh, yeah, we do have it in this one here.
Yeah, so as Mark was saying, you know, once we get through the PUC process and then the engineering and procurement process, you know, we're roughly looking at starting in the 2029 window, and that's starting from the Forest City side down to Litchfield. So we'll be doing these in segments just because we can't take the whole system down and leave everyone without power. So we'll be building that segment first into Litchfield, and then we'll be starting basically over by the Wilmer side and crossing all the way through up into Litchfield and then down into Hutchinson. So those will be, we'll do that kind of in a piecemeal approach, one line at a time, just to, you know, for varying reasons. Again, the power, keeping the lights on, the biggest reason. But it'll start in that 2029 window, and that, you know, 2031, 2032 is maybe the end of it. So if you wanted to try to frame it up in your mind of how long it might take, just, just trying to do the rough math. These are 3.5 weeks per mile typically takes, and we've got, 70 miles plus the substation work that has to be done too.
Are the existing substations, you must have those already.
Yeah, we do. So the Wilmer substation, we're just modifying that sub. In Forest City, we're actually adding a substation, but it's gonna replace a switch site, so an interconnection of lines there. It'll just be a breaker station there. We're already in the process of that.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
Yeah, so that will be there, for reliability purposes, and actually it's a part of this project, but it's also not really a part of the project. It's for our planning needs, we need that breaker station there regardless. But just the one substation, basically. Now, inside of Litchfield, I would say from our end, the SIMPA side of it, which I believe, there's already been engagement with that. There's an expansion of the site that is existing there now. So they're kind of breaking that apart to get, what they need in order to keep the system reliable for the Litchfield area.
The map notes several yellow areas as places for a facility, is that correct? And
So,
what would a facility look like? What size would it be? Can you explain that facility?
yeah, the yellow locations on this particular map are potential locations for a new 115 kV substation that will be owned by, right? Yep. And they've had conversations with the city of Litchfield. The one on the very north end of the city is likely where we are going to be building that new substation. So that will be is it just a breaker station and the transmission? The
There's a
transformers come
water
into.
treatment facility there.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. He said my backyard, my home really is right at the intersection of County Road 1 and 11.
Okay.
But, honestly, there are already facilities in that. And so that does make sense, but I just wanted to clarify what the footprint of that is. What is the size of this facility or,
Off the top of my head, I would say just, because this is one of the SIMPA-driven pieces of this project, so I can't speak to exactly everything of what they're doing on that end, but it's typically like a 200 by 250 foot kind of fence. 2 acres, less than 2 acres.
2 acres?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That particular parcel is owned by the city of Litchfield. They
Yes.
have, I think it's a pumping station or.
Water treatment.
Yeah, water treatment
Yes,
facility.
and there are wells in that area.
Yes,
yes.
yes, and we're aware of the wells.
Okay,
Yep, and so it's the one site down by the generation plant right now. It basically needs to be broken out and expanded, but it
Right.
will be, from an electrical circuit perspective, the same thing. It just had to be, because of the limited space they have at that one site right now with the aging facilities there, they had to bring it to a modernized design, split it into two, so the transmission breaker station on that north parcel there with the wells, and then the tie into the generation through the Muni site is moved down kind of next to the generation on the other side of it.
right. The other locations are really prime areas for expansion of the city, or of housing and so on. So, I mean, just my opinion for what it's worth.
We appreciate that, because we didn't have all of that information privy to us when we were drawing up the maps. We were just identifying some initial parcel locations for their substation so that SIMPA could work with the city and come up with a good solution. And we all thought the north parcel there was the best option.
Yeah.
And it was an easy thing. It sounds like
Yeah.
the city is very open.
But
to this
that's
idea.
right off north end of the fair we're talking, right?
No, if you would turn on, it would be 11th Street, or it's technically it's 270th Street.
Yeah.
If you would turn west toward Grove City, it turns into County Road 11.
Yeah.
The water treatment plant is there. That is on the south side of Highway 12.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
But that, you know, it's already used for, public utility services,
Right.
so. But the other yellow area, on the south side of County Road 11, or 270th
Yep.
Street, I believe that has already been platted at some point for housing, so I can't imagine that, you know, people who would want to build a home there eventually
Yep.
would want a, facility
Yeah.
in their backyard. So,
You would be surprised. We have built some very large substations, and in our past history, you know, we were budget conscious and would buy the smallest parcel necessary. And we would come back 10 years later and people built homes right up next to our fence line. We have a project, both Rob and I are working on in Burnsville, Minnesota. And, yeah, people put homes right up against our fence line. It's pretty amazing, actually, but we try to avoid that where possible.
Can you move your, the mouse to that westernmost yellow?
That
right
one?
there. Yeah, that's not, there's nothing in there for us there. That
Right.
was an early consideration,
Yep.
if that's what you're speaking of.
And-
no,
and
I'm
this one
speaking
right
of
here.
with, yes, that one where your dot
Kind
is,
of in the
that is
middle.
within the city limits,
Yep.
yes.
Yes, and because there has been development just to the east of there already, residential. We kind of figured that that's possible, but we didn't look at plating to see what was going on there, so.
So we're talking west of the dental clinic, new dental clinic on 22 out heading towards your place.
That is
North of
County
11.
Road 11?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
north of 11, west of the dental clinic.
Yes,
out there.
and there's a water treatment facility there now,
Okay.
which is kind of across from the mobile home park there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I appreciate the conversation, especially about the road names, because I look at my maps and you cannot tell where it changes from 270th to 11th, I think.
Does that County Road 1, it changes.
Yeah, at County Road 1.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just kidding about it being in your backyard. I didn't
Really
realize it
is.
actually
It
was.
really is in Charles Beck.
Actually, it would be across, the area within the city limits is across the road from my property.
Okay.
And then there is another home between us and the land owned by the city of Litchfield. Yeah, so it is what it is.
I think we got this slide done.
Yep.
That's
me.
wonderful.
Sometimes you guys
That's how
like
we
to hold
are.
things very formal.
That's how we are.
Again, we can go with the flow and do what you want, so.
So your poles, when installed, how far from the road,
50
passenger
feet from
lane?
center.
How far off from the passenger lane?
Oh,
Just a ballpark.
Just typical.
50, is it, or? Yeah.
Dale Elke with Great River Energy, Land Rights. So typically, we go right outside of whatever the platted highway width is. So if it's a 100-foot road right-of-way, we would be 55 feet off center line. We are conscious in working with the counties too, if the county has highway plans, expansion plans, or something like that, we will, have discussions with them initially, just to say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what our plan is. Any upcoming projects or things like that where we may interfere, even if it's a longer term, we can try to work with them to avoid any future conflicts in those areas.
We just happen to have our highway engineer. From center line, what is the right of way?
It's not the same on every road, most of them are 50 feet.
Okay,
Townships are 33.
Or what?
35, isn't it?
33.
33. yeah.
33?
Thirty-three?
Typically 33.
And in those cases, but especially along township roads, there's a lot of homes, obviously, that are built along those township. And a lot of cases, they're much closer to that right-of-way line, that 33 feet. So we try to basically work out what we can with that landowner. Generally, when the line is existing, we can continue on that same center line. Where we are, if there's some other type of encroachment in there where over time, whether it's been our lack of policing of construction of facilities, we have, like Mark did mention, we would have the potential to maybe possibly jump to the other side of the road. for a short span if we're able to do that. Again, we have existing rights on the one side, we're, changing our burden to those landowners that may be on the opposite side. So that's my responsibility of working with those landowners to try to determine what's that best path.
If you could keep it on the other side of the road from my house, that would be great.
You might be kidding.
The east side?
We are on the north side of the road, outside the city limits.
Oh, okay.
So we, like Mark has mentioned here, we've got a couple different options, what we're looking for routing. We do have an existing line that runs north out of the Litchfield Municipal Substation. As Rob alluded to, that substation, small for where it's at, that needs to be expanded to be a transmission. There's not enough room, so that's why we're looking at moving the facility to a different location. And that would just be the transmission side, and that would include, transformers,
There'll be room for transmission, but it won't be expanded. The site, like it's graded out there, it's size will be, but there might be facilities added within inside the fence.
Yeah,
So, we just got XL Energy, and we've had a lot of public meetings and so forth, and informational meetings and so forth. This might be a difficult question to answer, but do you get much resistance from the landowners?
typically no, because the lines that we are building and reconstructing here are a direct benefit to these landowners.
Okay.
This is, it's not some of the high voltage at 345,000 volt that's, I know being discussed. This is a higher voltage, but it's a higher voltage that's gonna be a direct benefit to the landowners that are there and to the development and to the, future expansion, of the power demands of the area. As Mark said, this line was built in the 40s. You think about what we plug into the walls today compared to what we did. We were plugging cars back in back in those days. We were just happy to have power. And as a rural co-op, working with Meeker Co-op. Meeker Co-op is one of our 26 co-ops that own us. So we are here on their behalf, making sure that the transmission facilities are there to support their substations so they can come to you, the member owners of the co-ops.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, so you're a third the size of the XL line that we were working with too, but that was gonna be my next question is, so are you able to, service farm sites and stuff off this line directly? Like, is this a service line or transmission?
This is a transmission line. So
So
we will
you
go
don't-
to the substations, and then the co-op will then bring it off of those substations on their distribution system.
Okay, that was my,
And as you were mentioning, you said a third of the side, yes. The poles that we have there existing today are roughly about 55 feet tall. So we're just looking, and that's a ballpark, 55.
Sure.
So we're looking at about a 15, 25-foot additional height for those poles. And the current poles out there are a cross-arm configuration. Some have been changed out with storms, so they're back to the more modern design. But the cross-arm or the wood cross-arm that's on there, those will be removed. All poles will get taller. There's actually a fourth wire on there too. That's a lightning protection for the system.
what is the spacing now, like on current existing line?
There's some areas there where we're actually carrying the co-op with us, so those are shorter spans, maybe 250 to 300 feet. I'll defer to whether we're gonna bury those, but the typical, we will go with that. If the co-op is not on our poles, we'll be able to go to the 350 to 500 foot spans.
Okay.
Where we do carry them, we are limited because they can't span as far as we can.
I have a question. We are seeing so many utilities buried. I mean, just tons of them. This isn't something that would ever, is it too large? Why isn't this something that would be underground?
Well, heat is the biggest issue.
Heat.
Heat.
Okay.
That's the easy answer. The heat that is created through a transmission line, when it's in the air, it's air cooled. So we have that. If you bury it underground, you have to figure a way to disperse that heat. And that, part of that is special soils. Part of that, at the 115 kV voltage, the way it typically is, generally it's by airports or, sometimes downtowns, but generally then they're put into concrete vaults. And those concrete vaults then have basically tubing with conduit that runs, the wires go through there, oil is then circulated through those tubes at, I'll call them utility boxes, like a better way to say it. They're large, enough for an adult to stand within, that run the pumps. There are pumps in there that circulate that oil to remove the heat from those lines as they're there. So it is a very big, very expensive, typically 8 to 10 times more than what it is. So typically,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is there's a magnitude of 8 to 10 times that are 8 to 10 times the cost in that regard. And obviously, there's areas where it has to be done, like in downtown Minneapolis, that type of thing. But it's not really like the most practical decision in long distance cross-country areas. And it could be 10 times the cost, and that's, it's not just the electrical substations, you'd have to have pumping stations and those types of things too. And just like the duct banks themselves in the ground can become a large cost themselves, aside from, not going to that level of pumping fluid-filled pipe with circuits within them.
and there's more disruption for a landowner in those cases, and there's more restrictions on what they can do with that land. Where a transmission line typically has been now, our main concern, or the main purpose of the line is kind of threefold. Number one, for us to have the line there on private property. Number two would be to have the ability to maintain that over the life, and then to manage or limit vegetation or buildings that would be within that easement area.
That would just overcomplicate and very expensive.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Yep, thank you.
So, Chair, if I may, one
ahead.
last question.
Yeah, sure, Paul. It's not, but go ahead.
One of the big questions that came up, now you're gonna be increasing the amount of capacity through these lines and what you've had. And of course, our local power company is beaming vibrant internet all over. Have you ever heard of any problem with your transmission lines and a radio signal coming through, such as vibrant internet?
No.
Okay.
They're different
Yeah.
wavelengths, so they're at different levels of how that's going through. So the interference level, you'd have to have the same, I don't know how I want to
Yeah,
say the wave.
it's a frequency.
Yeah, the same frequency, the same frequency. So if you're hitting at that exact same frequency, it's there, but we operate on the frequency chart, we're kind of down low and they're up high, or vice versa, I can't remember which it is.
Yep, we're low there.
But so we're low and they're high, so there's not that interference. I'm not getting anything in AM, yeah, if you have AM radio, if anyone listens to AM anymore. If you're driving underneath the
I
line,
do,
it's
actually.
that static, the same
Yeah.
thing, that you'd have there, because that's an interference level, but as soon as you immediately get away from the line, that goes away.
Madam Chair,
Sir.
same thing, I was just looking at the radio and the TV signals, and is that's gonna interfere with any of that? Cause I mean, I know they had talked about when the other one was here, is like, asked about it, and you were talking about the transmission lines on the way to Alex. And sure enough, my radio was just garbage. As soon as we hit those lines, it was like, geez, if I lived around here, I'd be ticked. Just saying.
Usually, there isn't any, and shouldn't be any interference with FM radio.
I don't care about FM.
Yep.
Do you listen to AM?
We found their one
Darren
subscriber.
listens to AM. I do sometimes too, I
There are
must say.
some potential if we're close to a tower,
I actually
and
listen to
there
Sirius.
is things we can do to mitigate that. So we just have to be aware of where the AM towers are. And I think we have one very small one, south,
South of Litchfield, right?
yeah,
Yeah, right out
southwest
here,
of
Caleb.
Litchfield.
Tower down there?
Okay.
So we'll talk to those folks and see what they think, but
But we do have those scenarios, the one we're working on now, that we would put like a tuning device on the poles and hopefully it mitigates that.
So if they find that it's problematic, they just call you? Or
Yeah,
who-
so if a
how do they-
landowner, and I've done this before, if a landowner calls up and says, hey, my satellite's not working right, or my antennas, you know, the TV antenna I have on top of the house isn't working. We'll go out, we have our telecommunication engineers that have the ability to go out there, do some tests. We've replaced equipment before, just as a courtesy to eliminate the concern that was there. Some areas we've added a filter to the system, which is created, which is in effect solved the problem. And in a lot of cases, it's that they've had loose connections or something like that. So it's not necessarily something that we've done. It's just the maintenance of their own facilities. And that's fine. I mean, that, we understand that we're there. We understand that there are questions and concerns. And we're willing to address those.
So are you talking about the actual AM tower that's running that, or the individual homeowners?
Individual homeowner. So depending on what they have. Now, it wouldn't be on the AM side, because there will be an interference there. And I often tell them that, it's similar, but where their home is in relation to the line, there shouldn't be that interference. It's just that small cone that's, when you're directly underneath that line, that's blocking the AM signal.
Well, now we gotta ask Tim if that, is that,
We
as long
don't,
as we got the radio station. It's gonna cause
Are you on the
problems.
AM side? Right. Both. Okay. I'll be retired by the time you build it.
good answer, Tim.
I just like that.
Any other questions, guys? Paul?
I said I had.
Oh, okay. Anybody else? Well, if nobody has any other questions, thank you. It was
Yeah,
very
thank you very
informative. We
much.
appreciate your time.
thank you very much.
Thank
you for the
you.
update.
Time.
Thank you. Andrew, Administrator's Report.
I only have one thing for you, and it's very good news. So
That's good.
if you recall, back in 2023, we, well, this process has been going on since at least 2016, if not earlier. But 2023, board adopted a resolution to allow us to enter into a purchase agreement for the annex of this building.
Yep.
I'm very happy to say that as of last week, we officially own the building.
Way to go.
So
That was a process.
it's been a very long process, and it has to do with the fact that back in the early 2000s, the school district had used some state bond funds for some improvements in there. And then there was a timeline where they couldn't transition the property because of that. But we finally were able to get through. We got the signature from the state, and last week the deed was recorded, and
Sweet.
we are officially the owners. So
Good job. Good news.
just happy to be here.
Yeah. All right, Commissioners update. Did you want to start or?
Start
Paul?
on that.
When it said me and said start, I like that.
guess. I thought I was a chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So I had my first introductory meeting to CMJTS. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
you're very welcome.
Appears to be, could be very interesting. to be
There's a
honest.
lot to
I
understand.
had a one-on-one
Yeah.
with their director. Their first meeting is March 13th, which is next Friday, so I'll get a real taste then. We had a CPT executive meeting. Finance is still there. We're in good shape. They're working on the remodel of the building. We had an in-depth discussion of how we had not done a formal review of our executive director in a couple of years. And I have to take the blame on that. I was chair and I didn't get it done. I didn't even think of it, actually. So we kind of set down the parameters of how we're going to review them. And then we've had some interesting discussions about, we have to find a way. So if one of Andrew's staff here that's using one of CPT's products is having issues or thinks there needs to be updates, we have to find a way to be able to communicate that
with CPT and get action taken. So we gotta work through that. Andrew's on the strategic planning, and I believe you're also on the software committee.
It's the same committee, but yes.
Okay, I can, that's two there. But, so we're really gonna take a much more active role at looking at that. Because if we're gonna be a first class, if we're gonna own this thing with all 24 counties, we wanna be first class. We don't want this to be anything else. Then we had, Andrew and I went to Prime Health up in Alex. And I just wanna remind you, it was about a year ago, I came back to this group. They were considering increasing the percentage amount of change to the premiums because of their claim experience in the first 6 months of the year had been so high. And I asked you how you wanted me to vote on that. And you as a group, Andrew and I gave you as much information as we had. And you suggested that we vote against any further increase in the rates. Well, the good news is that we made a good decision on that because their claim experience in the last 6 months of the year was not at the rate that the first 6 months were. So we made the right decision.
Good.
They proposed a budget which would have a net income for next year of about $262,000, which of course would go in the reserves of our health insurance. And how many counties? I can't remember how many counties, and then Pipestone Hospital,
I think there's 8
8 counties, yeah. And they
counties
were-
and county-related entities.
Yeah, that's the key. Not just anybody can get in. You have to be a subdivision of government to get in. So any of our joint powers board committees, they would be eligible to join. But we're looking at, and what Matt talked quite a bit about, we had a pretty robust discussion, is forming a group where smaller entities that maybe only have 10, 12, 20 folks in could join the small group as a part of one pool and then be eligible to get insurance through Prime Health. So it's just something they're looking at. We had the attorneys online. They discussed how we'd have to change bylaws and some different things. So that's going to be a work in progress, and I'll have more to say on that as they continue on. But I think of a couple of the committees that I'm on, and CPT is a perfect example. Eight people.
Right.
Well, the pool is so small, they end up with extremely high rates. And if they could get into some type of a pool, it would be good for them. So that's the kind of small groups they're talking about. So that,
Is Matt gonna continue being, is somebody transitioning into taking care of Prime Health, being Matt is moving up to CEO?
you know, we were, it's funny you would bring that up, because I said to
Hey.
Andrew, I said, I don't see the new person here, because they have
Oh, they have
someone.
hired somebody, okay,
And we were introduced to her at the last
okay.
Prime West meeting, but I couldn't remember the name or.
Well, I know how that
Matt did
goes.
say that they were gonna be coming around to the members to, do presentations in the spring and the
Okay,
summer.
I was just
Talk
curious,
about
because
the
I,
pool and the value of the pool and all that sort of stuff.
I would assume he's not gonna do that too.
The other thing that, Commissioner Johnson didn't mention that was interesting was, we had conversation last year about the fact that the pool voted to no longer cover, GLP-1
Was gonna be
drugs
my
for weight
question.
loss. For a diagnosis of weight loss. Continue to cover it for diabetes and other covered, or other on-label prescriptions for, some of the different, drugs that are out there. But they shared that in the whole year, the pool paid about $3.5 million of pharmacy costs. Of that, about $500,000 was just for GLP-1 drugs. So there was I think a 43% increase, in the total amount of pharmaceutical costs. It was 30% over budget. And, that was one of the big drivers. The other big driver is rheumatoid arthritis drugs.
Expensive.
They shared that the pharmacy benefit manager had been working with one of the individuals who was paying $26,000 a month, $28,000 a month for a certain drug. They were able to move them to a different drug that was costing $2,000 a month. So the cost of some of this pharmacy is really what's driving the cost of our insurance rates.
So the weight loss drugs are now gonna be on a website by the, was that a discussion? 'Cause
Yeah, so
I kinda looked,
part-
I thought, I wonder if this is real, and I looked, and it is, and
Part of the conversation was
there's
about
a lot
how
cheaper way.
if individuals who do not have coverage for these under their insurance plans are able to purchase them directly for significantly less, $50, $100 a month compared to the $1,400 a month the plan pays. And I believe would be HSA eligible. And so,
Okay.
you know, the county and individuals can put money into their HSAs and you can use those for qualified medical expenses. Purchasing drugs is certainly one of those things.
Okay.
And so even though the plan doesn't cover it, money does go in to that account to be able to cover certain expenses, and this would
It looked
potentially
quite a
cover
bit cheaper. I just took a gander in there
Significantly
for
cheaper.
some inhalers and things like that, so.
I know someone who, the plan would cost him $1,500 directly from Lilly,
Right,
$400 a month.
yeah, that's about what I was looking
So-
at, so it's a lot better, so. And hopefully in the future, they'll be doing that with some more things. I know the autoimmune drugs are terrible. They're- so-
Anti-inflammatories was the other one that
Yeah.
really brought up
Yeah.
that was high, so. Here endeth my report.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Okay, I had a Pioneer Land Library Executive and Finance Committee meeting. As I've stated before, Lori Ortega, the Executive Director, is retiring. So we've hired DDA to find a new Executive Director. They've had, as of our meeting date, they had 17 applications, which is a good number. And then the goal is to set the interviews for a new executive director by March 18th. So that's coming up. As far as finances, and they're still buying books. And, and, yeah, so budgetary things are all on track, so.
Good.
Then I had an HRA meeting in Dassel, at the Dassel Apartments. We do that once a year, and sometimes the residents will attend. There was a lady there to listen in. They had 2 vacancies, but those, the previous meeting, those have since been filled. And I did ask, they have 271 people on their waiting list.
It's bad.
So, otherwise, again, their finances are on track. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Let's see, last Wednesday, I had the CCT, it was just a pretty simple salary schedule meeting. They needed to get some approval on that because of the changes in the executive structure and the interim executive director. And so we just kind of approved a salary schedule for that. That is much more in line with some of the needs. It went up a little bit, I want to say like 7%, something like
I
that.
think they did a 4% COLA and a 3% step
Yeah,
or something. So
So,
that's quite a bit more than most of the boards I'm on, 4%, so.
but, you know, they're kind of in a competitive, it sounds like that they're a little bit
Yeah.
of in a competitive situation in terms of drivers and employees, so. It seemed to go pretty smoothly. And I did do a Inspiring Public Service AMC Zoom thing, which was kind of interesting. Lunch and learn deal. And that was kind of interesting just because one of the things they talked about is it's tougher to get people wanting to serve just because of the climate. And one of the comments they said that I've noted is they said all politics are national,
That's right.
you know? I mean, that's the
But that's not
mindset
what-
that we've got, but that's not the arena we work in. And so, yeah, it just, you know, there's real pressure because, you know, there's a lot, it seems to be that there's more, you know, harassment and pressure and insults and that whole kind of a thing in terms of our current culture. And so it's a little bit of a problem, but, you know, they talked about the Citizens League and how they're working to ease that and help elected officials, you know, be a little bit more aware of it, so that's all I've got.
That's a discussion we've had a lot with public health since COVID. The disrespect for public health and a lot, you know, because they were following what they thought was, we haven't had a pandemic before, so Would they do things differently? Probably, but in the end, they were following orders, so it's hard to gain that respect back from the public, which is very unfair, so. Steve?
Well, I just thought I'd mention the public hearing that we had here on the 17th too. I thought that went very well.
Very well.
From the
Absolutely.
from my point of view as a board member and the way it was led by our chair and also in the public. I mean, I've had several people comment how well it was done and on different sides of the issue, so I thought that was very nice.
I walked out of that meeting feeling pretty good about this board, because that was one good, you don't always have a great experience, but I felt good
Yeah,
talking.
It was
on
good.
It was
And the Dassel paper did a nice piece on it, very nice piece.
Good. I thought that was worthy of another mention there. Then I also had a DOC meeting, and Willie Swanson is our DOC representative here in Meeker, and I just want to give him a compliment, because he's done a good job of creating a good connection, quarterly, I believe these meetings are, and just with the administration, with the county attorney, with the sheriff's office, probate, everybody's kind of in the room talking, you have a chance to catch problems before they come problems. So he's done a very good job there, and really happy to see his leadership. Also met that same day with Grove City Care to go over we're working on some changes to the way we're gonna have to make some changes to the budgeting and just to save some dollars there. And just reformat how we do business there a little bit, so we had kind of a little bit of a planning session, if you will, that day. Then I basically, NACO from the 20th to the 25th, a lot of really good information. I'll kind of touch on three of the bigger things. RFK Jr. came and spoke to us one morning. It was a good breakout session. Basically talked, was focused around nutrition, and they never went into the vaccine area, which is always kind of controversial at RFK, but it was a great presentation. Talked about 63% of our kids are basically being given diabetes through the food stamp program, and that 78% of those kids end up on a Medicaid program, and that expense and how they're trying to change that dynamic. And they've started converting military installations to more whole food programs. They have 20 of them, 20 military installations targeted. They've already done 5. And what they're seeing is, and they're also doing like prisons and stuff, and they're seeing less aggressive behavior, just across the board, they're seeing changes. So they were starting with the military bases, doing some prisons, and I actually want to start, they're trying to develop a program for schools, because they said a lot of your schools don't really have an active kitchen anymore. They have heating facilities and warming facilities, so he said we're gonna look at something where we could actually get schools to have full kitchens in them again, and so just, it was all about nutrition, but it was very interesting, very good thing, and I think it was probably one of the most in the room enjoyed his presentation. Then the other thing we did was we met with Stephen Vaden, who is deputy undersecretary of the USDA, so right under Brooke Rollins. We had a meeting with him, about 5 of us, to talk SNAP and Medicaid, and there's definitely a disconnect. I say it politely, but Washington DC is not happy with the state of Minnesota, and there's some laws. He said we'd work with you however we can, but he said your attorney general is suing us, and we've gone to court a couple times, and he said we're doing our part, and it seems to be a little bit of a chess game on his side. So anyway, that was a conversation, but he said we can't help you unless you can get him to change his mind. So
Good luck.
the other one, that was on Monday afternoon, and then I got to look this Dr. Caprice Knapp, we met, and she's in HHS, CMS actually. So, and she's a doctor from Bismarck, North Dakota, but her title is the Principal Deputy of the Center for Medicaid and CHIP Services, so CMS for short. And she serves within HHS in this administration. She's from Bismarck, so she travels through Minneapolis a lot, and was myself and Scott County. It was basically me and one Scott County official. And Scott County has their own lobbyist hired, so he was in there with us. He lined it up. Very good conversation about, and we were talking about that interval, going from an annual assessment if you're between the age of the 21 and 65, and for example, you have Down syndrome. Well, you have Down syndrome next year, and it doesn't change that level of care. We want to change that interval or make it optional anyway to go to a 3-year interval instead of annual, because it's a lot of work for both the family and our social service department here. She completely understood it. She said some of the challenges is, and for lack of a better description, it's kind of in a pool with like 13 other things, and she said, you're gonna have to get that separated out. She goes, now is the right time to work on getting this changed. She said it because this is gonna be coming up on the radar, but she said, you're gonna have to separate that out. So she gave us a lot of information on how she thought our best chances to be successful are. And she was willing to, she flies through Minneapolis, going to DC a couple times a month, so she'd be willing to meet with more of us in St. Paul, or we said we'd even, some would go to Bismarck to meet her, as long as we're in the same geography here, so that was hopeful. So we had some good meetings there. Another big topic out there is data centers. And Virginia leads the nation in data centers, and it's like a lot. They have a lot of, I can't remember the number, but I was shocked at how many data centers are in Virginia. And they've learned a lot over the years and stuff. So that was definitely a big land use item that was talked about out there. Other than that, and then we have AMC Legislative Conference this week. So that is all I got.
Commissioner Oberg, he's not done yet.
Okay.
I'm not done yet.
Did you make an announcement
Oh.
yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday,
Oh,
I did announce yesterday that I am running for second vice president, for AMC this fall, so.
Good.
And I had to look it up because, I had two people inquire about what I was gonna do, if I was gonna rerun for secretary treasurer, or move up to second VP, or try and make an attempt. And I texted them both at 9:30 yesterday, and I looked today because at 9:06 yesterday, my announcement came out. And I texted them both, these people who asked about it. I said, I'll tell you when I make up my mind. So I texted them both at like 9:27 yesterday. And at 1:30, one of them already had an announcement out, for my position, so.
There you go.
So
Somebody is a lot quicker than me, because it took me a lot more time to.
Commissioner Schmidt would be, if everything works, will be
The
president of AMC my last year. But when was the last time we had a president
The
from
only
Meeker County?
president from Meeker County I think it was Ed Ham in 1962.
And ham.
So it's been
Couple of years.
Well,
Oh,
we're rooting for you.
Yeah.
We're
We'll
pulling
vote for
a
you.
lot of work to
Well,
do.
I might need more information.
All right, anything else, Commissioners? We really do appreciate, I know you take a lot of time, you're in DC, you're all over, and we appreciate that, we really do,
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for the board's support.
absolutely.
Because I'm learning through this process, that there is a lot of moving pieces. Once I got on executive, it's like, holy buckets.
Yeah, especially now.
AMC is one level, but then we're probably in unprecedented times.
I
too,
think
in
so.
The last couple of years, but
For sure.
it's just nonstop. And actually, we get done with the meeting, I'd like, remind me to tell you
Okay.
some other
All right.
nuances, but I'll let you know.
Okay, all right, so, what did I do? I'm on CCT also, and I had a previous commitment, and I ran home and tried to zoom in, and I couldn't get in because the meeting it was 13 minutes.
13 minutes, I was gonna say.
So,
They didn't mess around with
I
you not
missed
there,
it.
Beth.
So, did some rehab, so I'm like, and I kind of thought it was later than it was. So anyway, I did call and get a recap from Patty, and she said they raise a COLA in this step. They are still looking for an executive director, so they set a salary to be retroactive for the person that's been filling in since September. So it was certainly a short meeting, so more to come on that, I guess. I had a conversation with Kaisa from the CHS. We're setting up some workshops for people to get together to talk about what we want to do as far as going over from the consultant and going over the report and trying to, I'll be $5, $10 with inflation.
Saving the taxpayers' money.
I also had a Hawk Creek shelter meeting on Thursday night. I just called in, I didn't attend. They went over their, some of the things they're doing. They're still having too many animals and not enough adoptions. Still waiting on some state money that I've really been waiting for 3 years. We've had to hire attorneys, some farmland in Renville County anyway, it's not ending yet, so.
I was gonna say, that's been a while.
Yeah, that's been a while. Save Our Tales ended, and it looks like they just about met their goal. I didn't check today before I came. They do an online auction, and that went over. There was a comment made about how much stuff came in from Meeker County this time, thanks to Lori Johnson, who came on the board and is really working hard for Meeker County, and I really appreciate her, because I
heard she'll do anything to get away from her husband.
I wasn't gonna tell that part, and I think it may be.
She watches these.
Yeah,
meetings,
and
right?
it may be,
You heard that. I saw it.
the last thing I heard from her was, did he really wear a cowboy hat to the hospital board meeting? And I said, yes, he did, and she said, he just lives here, stays here once in a while. I'm not married to him. So, anyway, she's doing a great job, and I really appreciate all her work, and she's found a couple more people from this area, which is important. We talked about, we're still looking into trying to buy the building we're in that's owned by Candy Ojai. So, we can't buy it, but we're trying to set up some kind of a lease so we can't get kicked out, because there's some expanding we'd like to do and things, so. And we talked about, we're having discussions about trying to get some things going for reoccurring income, which a lot of nonprofits are starting to do, or trying to do because of the state. So we have some ideas out there. The next meeting is gonna be at Meeker County on the 26th of March, so if we have a meeting. So I think I didn't have a lot, so that's about all I had, so. Does anybody else have anything? Are we adjourning this, and then we're adjourning? And I'm gonna adjourn this, and let's take 10 minutes, and then we'll come back for the work session. Does that work, Greg? That works fine?
Can I have
Yes.
a question?
Yes, Steve.
Before, or did I miss this, but item 1, item B, under number 1 today, was that an action? March 3rd board meeting agenda?
We did the agenda, but we didn't do the board meeting minutes.
We did A. We voted on A.
Well, it was consent agenda, though.
No, right
Oh,
above.
that's true. Yeah, we did do the agenda.
Yeah, we did the agenda. Paul made the motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
I'm
I've been giving you lots of compliments, and you're picking on the chair now.
I'm reading too deep into it. Nope, no worries.
We're good.
We're gonna have to think about our vote.
I think so. Like Cheryl said, we might need more information. That will adjourn, and we'll have the work session. We'll call that to order in about 10 minutes if everybody needs a little break. Thank you, everyone.